Okay, so today our group is focusing on Toyota Motor Corporation and its expansion strategy into Mexico. Toyota is known for its worldwide reliability, quality, and one of the most efficient production systems in the automotive industry. Our team, Annabelle, Crystal, Jack, and myself, looked at how Toyota can strengthen its North American operations by expanding its manufacturing footprint in Mexico. What we're presenting today is the execution plan behind that strategy, how Toyota will actually compete, operate, and succeed in this market. So we chose Mexico because it become a major automotive hub in North America. The country offers competitive labor costs, strong integration with the US and Canada through the USMCA, and a growing market for fuel-efficient and hybrid vehicles. Our strategy purpose is to help Toyota increase production capacity, reduce cost, and support the shift towards hybrid and electric models. To do that, Toyota will enter through a wholly owned subsidiary using a greenfield investment. This gives Toyota full control over quality, technology transfer, and Toyota's production system, things that are essential for maintaining its global reputation. Mexico presents several major opportunities for Toyota. First, labor costs are significantly lower than the US, but the workforce is still highly skilled in the automotive manufacturing. Second, the USMCA encourages companies to source more components within North America, which helps Toyota avoid tariffs and stay competitive. There's also a growing demand in Mexico for smaller, fuel-efficient, and hybrid vehicles, which aligns perfectly with Toyota's strengths. And because Toyota already has facilities in Mexico, expanding further becomes more cost-effective and less risky. Of course, there are risks Toyota needs to manage. Mexico has some political and regulatory uncertainties, and labor standards continue to evolve. Security concerns in certain regions can also affect logistics and employee safety. Another challenge is exchange rate volatility, which can impact production costs. And while Mexico's infrastructure is improving, there are still areas where transportation and supply chain reliability can be inconsistent. These risks don't outweigh the opportunities, but they do require strong planning and internal controls. From an institutional standpoint, Mexico is very supportive of foreign direct investment, especially in manufacturing. The USMCA is a major advantage because it allows Toyota to export vehicles tariff-free to the US and Canada, as long as enough parts are sourced within North America. Environmental regulations are also pushing companies towards cleaner production, which fits Toyota's hybrid and EV strategies. And finally, Mexico's labor laws emphasize training, safety, and compliance, where areas where Toyota already excels. So overall, the institutional environment supports long-term growth if Toyota stays compliant and proactive.
As we look into marketing, we must first define Toyota's target market, which, because of the location of the expansion, Toyota will be able to access multiple markets. Firstly, the North American market can be accessed where consumers want larger vehicles such as the Tacoma, Tundra, SUVs, and then more and more we see the want for electric and hybrid vehicles. In South America, however, we see a slight difference as consumers want affordable, reliable, and fuel efficient cars that are more compact, so the Camry or Corolla. They also still want to see hybrid and electric vehicles as well. Promotional strategies that can be used by Toyota would consist of commercials, social media advertisements, such as like from YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, and then we can get a more local approach by having billboards or local networks really hone in on the preferences of the region. For example, in Mexico, we wouldn't really promote the Tundra and Tacoma as much, but we would focus on the Camry, Corolla, and how reliable, affordable, and fuel efficient they are. Another promotional strategy we could use is having local or regional deals or offers. For instance, we could have deals for specific celebrations that may be going on in a region or local culture. A big thing for Toyota's marketing, I think, is their reputation. As of now, they are seen as a reliable company with quality product that people want to keep for a long time. A lot of their people who have bought in cars do keep their cars for a long time, and those cars retain a lot of money. They're not just depreciating as fast. So I think if Toyota really leans on that, that's great for your future sales. As for operations, I'd first like to look at the labor force. With the expansion into Mexico, there will be a need for a large labor force of Mexican workers, which is great because they are cheaper, but they still maintain that high skill work that's needed for Toyota. We can then pair that with managers from other Toyota operations who already have experience so they can implement all of Toyota's views of reliability, consistency, operations. And then we can also pair that with the shareholders who can look at a more long-term view for the company as they can look at long-term profit, they can navigate ever-changing trade agreements, and they can also try to mitigate any risks. We'll now look at logistics, which is a big thing for any production operation, especially of this size. Toyota already has previous logistical routes because they've already been in Mexico. This is nice because instead of starting from scratch, Toyota can then just add on to what is already built. And it's really nice because there's already a preconceived knowledge of the region, so we will already know how to operate well in this expansion. Lastly, for operations, I'll talk about sourcing. It's very important for Toyota to have strong local supplier relationships for a couple main reasons. One being having strong relationships with local suppliers will allow Toyota to be in a better light with this expansion as they can increase jobs for locals and overall well-being instead of being seen as kind of a bad thing for just coming in. Another great thing for Toyota and local suppliers is that Toyota needs to meet a specific quota so they can realize the benefits of the United States, Mexico, and Canada trade agreement. I think I forget the exact percentage. I want to say 75% of the product needs to be locally sourced from those regions to realize the benefits. And now, as we talk about the financial logic of this expansion, we'll first talk about how it's cost effective. Mexico offers very cheap labor compared to other regions. And like I mentioned before, they still have high skilled workers. So we can get cheap labor for high skilled work, which is great for Toyota. We also see, like I mentioned in the previous slide, previous logistical routes. So we don't have to spend so much time and money figuring that out. We more just have to add on to that logistical knowledge and operate pretty smoothly. There's already an existing infrastructure in Mexico for Toyota, as they have multiple plants already operational. This is great because Toyota can then they can really produce according to demand. We can we can see a large number of vehicles being produced per year just by one production facility. And then if you pair that with multiple of them, you're going to have continuous product meeting demand, meeting preferences, and those products can go North America, South America, or Mexico. The last thing about financial logic we can see is Toyota already has prior investment into Mexico. Just recently, they invested about $1.45 billion into Mexico, and that was to completely renovate multiple plants and increase their capacity so they can produce more and more, faster and faster. This is a great benchmark that we can use for our expansion, as it would be very similar to that. We'd have to make new facilities for production and selling alike. So we can use that benchmark of 1.45 billion, and we can say with confidence that our expansion would be around the 1 billion to even $2 billion benchmark.
Okay, our recommended market entry strategy for Toyota Motor Corporation is a wholly owned subsidiary, specifically through expanding its local manufacturing operations in Mexico. This means Toyota would fully own and control its production facilities, supply chain decisions, and the overall operations within the market. The strategy is especially important because Toyota's success is built on its Toyota's production system, which focuses on efficiency, quality control, and continuous improvement. By maintaining full ownership, Toyota can implement the system without compromise, ensuring consistent product quality and operation efficiency. Overall, this approach allows Toyota to maintain complete control while positioning itself for long-term growth in the Mexican market. This strategy works well because it aligns with both Toyota's strengths and characteristics of the Mexican market. First, Mexico offers significantly lower labor and production costs while still providing a skilled manufacturing workforce. This allows Toyota to reduce costs without sacrificing quality. Second, Mexico's participation in the United States-Mexico-Canada Agreement provides major trade advantages. Vehicles produced in Mexico can be exported tariff-free to the United States and Canada, which strengthens Toyota's North American supply chain. Additionally, Toyota already has an existing presence in Mexico, which reduces the risk typically associated with expansion and allows for smoother integration into its current operations. However, there are still important risks to consider. One key risk is trade and political uncertainty, particularly with the upcoming USMCA review. Toyota can mitigate this by maintaining a flexible supply chain and diversifying production across regions. Another risk involves labor and regulatory changes, which can increase costs and complexity. Toyota can address this through strong compliance system, workforce training, and effective labor management. There are also financial risks such as currency fluctuations, which can be managed through hedging strategies and flexible pricing. Finally, supply chain and security risks in certain regions can impact logistics, but these can be reduced by working with trusted partners and investing in secure transportation systems. Overall, while there are risks that exist, they can be effectively managed, making this strategy both practical and highly beneficial for Toyota's long-term success. A wholly owned subsidiary provides Toyota with the control, efficiency, and flexibility needed to succeed in Mexico while supporting long-term growth and competitiveness.
Next, you must consider the ethical effects that this wholly owned subsidiary will have in Mexico. In recent years, both slave and child labor has existed in the nation. According to the U.S. Department of Labor, in 2024, 924,176 children ages 5 to 14 were involved in child labor, with 27.8% of them working in industry-like jobs, including manufacturing. This means that any car manufacturing taking place in Mexico runs a risk of being unethical. When Toyota moves its production, it is important to ensure that the production partner or individual production sites are hiring quality employees. As the demand for electric and hybrid vehicles increases, the need for skilled workers who understand the complexities of this technology is vital. If not, Toyota could risk earning a bad reputation and could be involved in a huge scandal if child or slave workers are used. This negative publicity would make it very difficult for this new subsidiary location to have any success. Being involved in the car industry also raises environmental concerns for the company. The automotive industry is responsible for 10% of the world's carbon emissions due to the 80 million cars that are produced annually. This puts extra stress on car companies, including Toyota, to reduce their emissions in any way possible. Whether this means using renewable energy sources for production, reducing transportation emissions, or simply using less at office sites, Toyota needs to show its consumers that it is making an effort to protect the environment. This increased customer environmental concern has also increased the demand for both electric and hybrid car options. Since the batteries used to make these cars are costly to make and create a lot of CO2 emissions during production, Toyota should focus a lot of its research and development toward finding a more efficient way to produce them. Whether this means lowering the complexity of the battery itself or simply figuring out a way to lower the emissions of production, an advance in this technology would give Toyota a great public look and would give it a strong competitive advantage over competitors. The expected timeline for this addition is approximately 4 to 6 months. Before starting this business, Toyota must work with the various Mexican agencies and the government to get approval. The company must register for taxes, will need a Mexican bank account since the currency is different, and they will need to register with the local authorities and Social Security Institute, along with filling out lots of paperwork and providing documentation to prove that the company is legitimate. After this is done, they will have to find a production site or production partner. They must hire employees, gather raw materials for production, set up a location for sales to be made, and determine the compliance rules for transporting outside of the nation. Creating a wholly owned subsidiary is not a simple operation, so Toyota must be patient and ensure it's thinking through each step with extra care. There should be no rush, so operations should not be expected until after 4 months. Once these operations begin, a few different key performance indicators should be looked at. The first is the number of sales that the company is getting in the new location. Since the market is so large, the saturation can be relatively low and the company could still be profitable. However, if customers are unaware of the product, more advertising should run. This means more money should go towards the marketing and advertisement teams to ensure consumer awareness is increased. When originally entering the market, the focus should be on market reach and awareness as there is no existing customer base to retain currently. The next KPI should be the profitability of the new location. The difference between the new revenues and new costs will be revealing and will show Toyota if this new location is worth keeping. Finally, the company should analyze its customer satisfaction score. This can be found by providing customers a survey to complete post-purchase and also by analyzing the results of reviews left online. By doing this, Toyota can see its strengths and weaknesses in Mexico and can alter its services accordingly. Any conflicts can be resolved in real time and any benefits can be promoted more on the marketing end. Overall, Toyota is making an intelligent decision when creating a wholly owned subsidiary in Mexico. The market provides extensive opportunities for company growth, profitability, and increased market share. A wholly owned subsidiary is an effective way to enter the market as well as ensures the technological know-how is safe. The organizational structure can be passed on effectively and the company receives all of the profits as there are no intermediaries. This also means that the current management team holds total control over the new location and can change any operational, production-related, or advertising elements to ensure the best decisions are made. The company can choose to standardize its products or customize them to fit local demand, depending on which seems more reasonable. Since the company holds control, it can reap the benefits for years to come. As the Mexican market continues to grow, Toyota will grow with it, proving that this strategy is the smart thing to do.